The envoy's arrival. Ambassador Zixtal of the Galactic Empire smoothed his iridescent robes as the diplomatic vessel Starlight Envoy dropped out of hyperspace. His antenna twitched with anticipation. After 3 millennia of isolation, the fabled birthplace of humanity was about to re-enter the galactic stage. Ambassador, we're approaching Earth's solar system, the pilot announced. Entering real space in 3, 2, 1. The starfield shimmered and solidified. Zixtal leaned forward, eager for his first glimpse of the legendary homeworld. His mandibles clicked in confusion. "That can't be right," he muttered. "Pilot, are you certain these are the correct coordinates?" The pilot, a cybernetically enhanced Fargan, double-checked the navigation systems. "Affirmative, Ambassador. This is Sol system. And that," he pointed at a gleaming orb ahead, "is Earth." But it wasn't the Earth that Zixtal had studied in the historical archives. Gone were the vast blue oceans and swirling white clouds. Instead, the planet before them shimmered like a jewel, its entire surface covered in an intricate lattice of lights and structures that extended far into the atmosphere. "By the Emperor's third appendage," Zixtal breathed, "they've built an ecumenopolis." As the Starlight Envoy approached, they were hailed by Earth's orbital control. The communication was not in any of the standard galactic languages, but in perfect Imperial high speech, a dialect usually reserved for the most elite circles of the Empire. "Greetings, Ambassador Zixtal." A melodious voice echoed through the ship's speakers. "Earth welcomes you. Please proceed to the following coordinates for docking." Zixtal exchanged bewildered glances with his aides. How did they know his name? And how had they mastered high speech? As they descended through the upper atmosphere, the true scale of Earth's transformation became apparent. Massive arcologies stretched into the sky, their gleaming surfaces adorned with lush hanging gardens. Vehicles that seemed to defy gravity zipped between the structures in orderly streams. The Starlight Envoy was guided to a vast floating platform that served as a spaceport. As Zixtal and his entourage disembarked, they were greeted by a delegation of humans, led by a tall, serene-looking woman with silver hair and eyes that seemed to shimmer with an inner light. "Welcome to Earth, Ambassador Zixtal," she said, her voice the same one they had heard earlier. "I am Dr. Elara Vance, Earth's chief diplomat. We've been looking forward to your arrival." Zixtal bowed deeply, trying to mask his shock. "Honored Dr. Vance, I bring greetings from His Imperial Majesty, Zorax the Magnificent, 17th of his name, Emperor of the 10,000 Suns." Dr. Vance smiled warmly. "We are well aware of Emperor Zorax and the current state of the Empire, Ambassador. Please, follow me. We have much to discuss." As they walked through the spaceport, Zixtal couldn't help but marvel at the technology on display. Holographic interfaces flickered in and out of existence at the merest gesture. Robots of designs he had never seen before glided silently alongside humans, seemingly engaged in casual conversation. "I must admit, Dr. Vance," Zixtal said, struggling to maintain his diplomatic composure, "Earth has changed somewhat since our last contact." Dr. Vance chuckled. "You could say that, Ambassador. 3,000 years is a long time, even by galactic standards. We've been busy." They entered a gravity tube that whisked them to the top of a nearby arcology. The conference room they entered offered a breathtaking view of the planet-wide city. As they sat down, Dr. Vance waved her hand, and a holographic display sprang to life in the center of the table. It showed a detailed map of the galaxy, with the Empire's territory clearly marked. "Now then, Ambassador," Dr. Vance said, her tone becoming more businesslike. "Let's discuss Earth's potential membership in the Galactic Empire." Zixtal's antenna stood straight up in surprise. You wish to join the Empire?" "Of course," Dr. Vance replied. "Isolation has served its purpose, but it's time for humanity to rejoin the galactic community. However," her eyes glinted, "we will be doing so on our own terms." Over the next few hours, Dr. Vance outlined Earth's proposals. They wanted representation on the Imperial Senate proportional to their population, which Zixtol was stunned to learn, now numbered in the trillions. They demanded unrestricted travel rights throughout Imperial space. Most shockingly, they insisted on maintaining their own independent military forces. Surely you understand, Dr. Vance. Zixtol sputtered. These terms are unprecedented. No member world of the Empire maintains its own military. It goes against every treaty and— Ambassador, Dr. Vance interrupted gently. I don't think you quite grasped the situation. Allow me to demonstrate something. She closed her eyes for a moment. Suddenly, Zixtol felt a presence in his mind, warm, vast, and utterly alien. What you're experiencing now, Dr. Vance said, her eyes still closed, is a fraction of humanity's collective consciousness. Over the past 3 millennia, we've transcended mere verbal or technological communication. Every human on Earth, and throughout our colonies in this solar system, is connected on a fundamental, quantum level. Zixtol's mind reeled. This was beyond anything in the Empire's experience. Colonies? He managed to ask. Dr. Vance opened her eyes and smiled. Oh yes, we've terraformed and settled every planet and major moon in our system. Mars, Venus, Europa, Titan, all now support thriving human populations. The implications were staggering. If what Dr. Vance said was true, humanity's population and resources dwarf those of many Imperial sectors combined. I will need to consult with the Imperial Council, Zixtol said weakly. Of course, Dr. Vance nodded. Take all the time you need. In the meantime, would you like a tour of some of our facilities? I'm sure you're curious about our technological advancements. Over the next few days, Zixtol was shown wonders that challenged everything he thought he knew about the limits of science. He saw quantum computers that could simulate entire universes, medical facilities that could regrow limbs in hours, and energy production systems that harnessed the power of artificial singularities. But it was the shipyards orbiting Mars that truly left him speechless. The vessels under construction, there were like nothing he had ever seen. Massive, organic-looking ships that seemed to ripple and shift as he watched. Our flagship will be completed soon, Dr. Vance told him as they observed from a viewing platform. We call it the Gaia's Dream. It's capable of manipulating the fabric of space-time itself. As Zixtol watched the colossal ship take shape, a chilling thought occurred to him. If humanity decided to use this technology for conquest instead of cooperation, the Empire wouldn't stand a chance. Back on Earth, as he prepared to send his initial report to the Imperial Council, Zixtol chose his words carefully. The Empire needed to tread lightly. Humanity had grown far beyond anyone's expectations during their long isolation. The Galactic Empire might have arrived at Earth believing they were welcoming a lost child back into the fold. Instead, they found themselves face to face with a sleeping giant that had awoken, stretched its limbs, and was now ready to reshape the galaxy. As he composed his message, Zixtol couldn't shake the feeling that the arrival of his modest diplomatic vessel might just be remembered as the most significant event in Imperial history. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted, and nothing would ever be the same again. Unveiling the Fleet. Ambassador Zixtol stood rigidly in the observation deck of the orbital station, his 4 arms clasped tightly behind his back. It had been a week since his arrival on Earth, and each day had brought new shocks that challenged his understanding of the universe, but nothing had prepared him for what he was about to witness. Dr. Ilara Vance stood beside him, her silver hair shimmering under the starlight. "Are you ready, Ambassador?" she asked, a hint of excitement in her normally composed voice. Zixtol nodded, not trusting himself to speak. The orbital station they were on had been cloaked, hiding the vast shipyards beyond from view. Now, at last, humanity was ready to reveal the full extent of their spacefaring capabilities. Dr. Vance made a subtle gesture, and the cloaking field dissipated. Zixtol's compound eyes widened, taking in the awe-inspiring sight before him. Stretching as far as he could see were ships of all sizes and configurations, but all sharing a distinctly organic, almost living quality. They seemed to pulse with an inner light, their surfaces rippling like the skin of some cosmic leviathan. By the Emperor's sacred tentacles, Zixtol breathed, forgetting diplomatic protocol in his shock. Dr. Vance smiled. Allow me to introduce you to the Terran Defense Fleet, Ambassador, or as we like to call it, the Starborn Armada. A massive vessel near the center of the formation caught Zixtol's attention. It dwarfed even the largest Imperial dreadnoughts, its form reminiscent of a colossal, stylized tree with branches reaching out into space. That, Dr. Vance said, following his gaze, is our flagship, the Gaia's Dream. Shall we take a closer look? Before Zixtol could respond, he felt a strange tingling sensation. In the blink of an eye, they were no longer on the observation deck, but standing on what appeared to be the bridge of the Gaia's Dream. How did we? Zixtol sputtered, his antennae twitching in confusion. Quantum entanglement teleportation, Dr. Vance explained casually. It's how we move between our ships and stations. Much more efficient than shuttles, don't you think? Zixtol's mind reeled. Quantum teleportation was theoretical in the Empire's most advanced research labs. To see it used so casually was staggering. The bridge of the Gaia's Dream was unlike any Starship command center Zixtol had ever seen. There were no visible control panels or screens. Instead, a group of humans sat in what looked like meditation poses, their eyes closed, subtle expressions crossing their faces as if in deep concentration. Our ships, Dr. Vance explained, are controlled through a direct neural interface. The crew doesn't just operate the ship, they become the ship. Every system, from propulsion to weapons, is an extension of their collective consciousness. Incredible, Zixtol murmured. But surely, for a ship this size, you'd need thousands of crew members. Dr. Vance shook her head. Not at all. The Gaia's Dream can be fully operated by as few as 5 individuals. What you're seeing now is our command crew of 12, which allows for more complex operations and redundancy. She gestured, and a holographic display materialized in the center of the bridge. It showed the Gaia's Dream in intricate detail, with flowing lines of energy pulsing through its structure. The ship is powered by what we call a dimensional tap, Dr. Vance continued. It draws energy directly from the quantum foam underlying our universe. In essence, it has an infinite power supply. Zixtol's scientific mind, honed by years in the Imperial Academy, struggled to comprehend the implications. But the energy requirements to maintain such a tap, the structural integrity needed to channel that kind of power, are far beyond conventional materials. Yes, Dr. Vance finished for him. That's why our ships are grown, not built. They're a hybrid of organic and inorganic materials, with a crystalline lattice structure that can channel and distribute energy on a subatomic level. She turned to one of the crew members, a young man with intricate, glowing circuitry visible just beneath his skin. Ensign Chen, would you mind giving the ambassador a small demonstration of our maneuverability? The ensign nodded, his eyes still closed. Suddenly, Zixtol felt a subtle shift. On the holographic display, he saw the massive bulk of the Gaia's Dream begin to move. It didn't so much fly through space as it seemed to glide, the very fabric of reality bending around it. In a matter of seconds, the enormous ship had performed a series of complex maneuvers that should have been impossible for a vessel of its size. It moved with the grace of a dancer, defying every law of physics Zixtol thought he knew. How? Was all he could manage to say. We don't move through space in the conventional sense, Dr. Vance explained. The ship creates localized distortions in space-time, essentially bringing our destination to us rather than us traveling to it. She smiled at Zixtol's dumbfounded expression. Would you like to see our faster-than-light capabilities? Before he could respond, the holographic display changed, showing a view of the entire solar system. With a thought from Ensign Chen, the Gaia's Dream disappeared from Earth orbit. A split second later, It reappeared near the orbit of Pluto. "We call it the quantum slip," Dr. Vance said. "It allows for instantaneous travel between any 2 points in space, regardless of distance." Zixtal's mind was spinning. The fastest Imperial ships took days to cross a single star system. The strategic implications of this technology were enormous. "Of course," Dr. Vance continued, seemingly reading his thoughts, "our ships are not just for transportation. Ensign Chen, please bring up the weapons systems display." The hologram shifted again, this time showing an array of technologies that made Zixtal's exoskeleton crawl with a mixture of awe and fear. Gravity, lances capable of tearing planets apart, quantum disruptors that could unravel the atomic structure of entire fleets, temporal shells that could trap enemy ships in localized time distortions. "As you can see, Ambassador," Dr. Vance said, her voice taking on a more serious tone, "Earth is more than capable of defending itself. But we hope it won't come to that. Our goal is peaceful cooperation with the Empire, not conflict." Zixtal nodded numbly. The message was clear. Earth was offering to join the Empire as an ally, not a subject, and they had the technological might to back up their position. As they prepared to return to the orbital station, Zixtal found his voice at last. "Dr. Vance, I must ask, if your technology is so advanced, why reach out to the Empire at all? Surely you could forge your own path in the galaxy." Dr. Vance's expression softened. "Because, Ambassador, for all our advancements, we haven't forgotten our history. Humanity has learned the hard way that isolation leads to stagnation. We need the diversity of the galaxy, the challenge of new ideas and cultures, to continue growing. We don't want to conquer the Empire. We want to be a part of it, to help it evolve into something greater than the sum of its parts." As they rematerialized on the observation deck, Zixtal gazed out at the assembled fleet, his mind grappling with the implications of all he had seen. One thing was certain: the galaxy would never be the same again. The age of Earth's isolation was over, and a new era was about to begin. Negotiations and intrigue. The Imperial Palace on Centauri Prime buzzed with activity. News of Earth's technological marvels had spread like wildfire through the Empire, and the Imperial Council had convened an emergency session to discuss the unprecedented situation. Ambassador Zixtal stood before the council, his antennae twitching nervously as he finished his report. The chamber was silent for a long moment, the various alien representatives processing the staggering information. Finally, Grand Vizier Kithok, a towering insectoid with iridescent wings, spoke. "This is most disturbing, Ambassador. If what you say is true, this Earth could pose a significant threat to the stability of the Empire." "With all due respect, Grand Vizier," Zixtal replied, "I don't believe Earth harbors any hostile intentions. They seem genuinely interested in peaceful cooperation." "Perhaps," rumbled Warlord Grok, a hulking reptilian with cybernetic enhancements. "But can we afford to take that chance? I say we mobilize the fleet immediately. Strike before they can." "Absolutely not," interrupted Trade Minister Lyra, her tentacles writhing in agitation. "Think of the economic opportunities if we could gain access to even a fraction of Earth's technology." The council chamber erupted into heated debate. Unnoticed in the chaos, a hooded figure slipped out of the room, making its way to a secure communication chamber. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Dr. Ilara Vance sat in quiet meditation in her private quarters. Her eyes snapped open as a flood of information surged through the global consciousness. "Interesting," she murmured. Rising gracefully, she made her way to the negotiation chamber where the Earth delegation was preparing for the next round of talks with the Empire. As she entered, the room fell silent. "We may have a problem," Vance announced. "It seems not everyone in the Empire is thrilled about our emergence." She waved her hand, and a holographic display materialized, showing the heated debate in the Imperial Council chamber. The Earth delegates watched in silent concentration, their enhanced minds processing and analyzing every detail. "It appears we have both allies and enemies within the Empire," said Admiral Chen, his cybernetic eyes whirring as they focused on the display. "The Trade Federation seems particularly interested in our technology, and the military caste is predictably wary," added Dr. Imani Okoro, Earth's chief xenoanthropologist. "Their body language suggests they're seriously considering preemptive action." Vance nodded. "Indeed, but there's more." She gestured again, and the display shifted to show the hooded figure in the secure communication chamber. "One of our quantum entanglement probes picked this up. It seems someone is feeding information to an unknown party outside the Imperial hierarchy." The room was silent as the implications sank in. Finally, a young diplomat named Raj Patel spoke up. "So what do we do? Do we confront them with this knowledge?" Vance smiled. "Not directly, but we can use this information to our advantage. When the Imperial delegation arrives, we'll need to be very precise in our negotiations." As if on cue, an aide entered the room. "Dr. Vance, the Imperial diplomatic ship has just entered orbit. They're requesting permission to land." Vance nodded. "Granted, and inform Ambassador Zixtel that we look forward to continuing our discussions." Hours later, the negotiations were in full swing. The Imperial delegation, led by Grand Vizier Thok himself, sat across from the Earth representatives in a grand conference room atop one of New Jakarta's gleaming arcologies. "And so," Kathok was saying, his mandibles clicking in agitation, "while the Empire is certainly impressed by Earth's advancements, we have concerns about the potential destabilizing effect your technology could have on the established order." Vance listened politely, her serene expression betraying nothing of her inner thoughts. When Kathok finished, she leaned forward slightly. "We understand your concerns, Grand Vizier," she said, her voice calm and measured. "But let me assure you, Earth has no interest in destabilizing the Empire. In fact," she paused, allowing a hint of a smile to play across her lips, "we believe our technology could be the key to solving many of the Empire's most pressing problems." Thok's antennae twitched in surprise. "Oh, and what problems might those be?" "Well," Vance continued, "our quantum entanglement communication system could eliminate the lag in Imperial communications, allowing for more effective governance of far-flung systems. Our energy production technology could end resource scarcity across the Empire. And our medical advancements." She let the implication hang in the air. The Imperial delegates exchanged glances. The potential benefits were tantalizing, but the military representatives still looked skeptical. "And what would Earth want in return for these gifts?" growled Warlord Grok. "Merely what we've already proposed," Vance replied smoothly. "Equal representation in the Imperial Senate, free trade and travel rights, and the ability to maintain our own defense force." "Unacceptable," Grok roared, slamming his cybernetic fist on the table. "No member world is allowed its own military. It goes against every tradition of the Empire." "Yes," Vance interrupted gently. "But perhaps it's time for those traditions to evolve. After all," her gaze swept the room, lingering meaningfully on certain delegates, "we're all aware that change is coming to the Empire, one way or another." A ripple of unease passed through the Imperial delegation. How much did the humans know? Vance continued, her voice taking on a more serious tone. "We know about the factions within the Empire that fear our emergence. We know about the secret communications being sent to outside parties." She held up a hand as several delegates began to protest. "We're not here to point fingers or make accusations. We're here to offer a path forward, one that benefits all of us." The room was silent for a long moment. Finally, Trade Minister Lyra spoke up, her voice trembling slightly. What exactly are you proposing?" Vance's expression softened. "An alliance, not Earth subjugated to the Empire, but a true partnership. We'll share our technology gradually, allowing the Empire time to adapt. In return, we ask for the freedom to continue our own path of development within the larger framework of Imperial law." She stood, her presence seeming to fill the room. The galaxy is changing, honored representatives. New threats are emerging from the darkness between the stars. Old powers are stirring. The Empire needs Earth's innovation and adaptability just as much as we need the Empire's stability and reach. As Vance's words hung in the air, the Imperial delegates found themselves faced with a momentous choice. The future of the galaxy hung in the balance. Unnoticed by most, Ambassador Zixtal allowed himself a small smile. He had seen firsthand the wonders Earth was capable of. And now, watching Dr. Vance deftly maneuver through this diplomatic minefield, he was beginning to understand that humanity's greatest strength might not be their technology at all, but their vision for the future. The negotiations were far from over, but a new path was beginning to emerge, a path that could lead the Empire and humanity to heights neither had dreamed possible. The looming threat. The negotiations had stretched on for weeks, a delicate dance of diplomacy and veiled threats. Progress was slow but steady, with both Earth and the Empire cautiously optimistic about reaching an agreement. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. Alarms blared throughout the New Jakarta arcology, startling the delegates mid-session. Dr. Ilara Vance's eyes went distant for a moment as she connected to Earth's global network. "We have an emergency," she announced, her usual calm demeanor tinged with urgency. "A hostile force has just appeared in the Proxima Centauri system. They've already destroyed the Imperial outpost there." The Imperial delegates erupted in panic. Proxima Centauri was the nearest star system to Earth and a key strategic point for the Empire. Grand Vizier Kithok's mandibles clicked rapidly. "Impossible. Our defenses there were state-of-the-art. Who could have?" He was cut off as a holographic display materialized in the center of the room. It showed a swarm of alien ships, unlike anything the Empire had encountered before. They moved with an unsettling, organic fluidity, their hulls seeming to shift and morph as they advanced. "By the Emperor's sacred eggs," breathed Warlord Grok. "It's the Void Swarm. They've returned." Dr. Vance turned to him sharply. "You know these beings." Grok nodded grimly. "They're an ancient enemy of the Empire. We thought we'd driven them back to the Galactic Rim centuries ago. If they're here now, then the entire sector is at risk," finished Ambassador Zixtal. The room fell into tense silence as the implications sank in. It was Trade Minister Lyra who finally spoke up. What can we do? Our nearest battle fleet is days away, and if they've already overwhelmed Proxima Centauri." All eyes turned to Dr. Vance. She stood perfectly still, her eyes closed in concentration as she communed with Earth's collective consciousness. After a moment, she opened her eyes, her gaze steely with determination. "Earth will help defend against this threat," she declared. The Imperial delegates exchanged skeptical glances. Warlord Grok scoffed. "With all due respect, Dr. Vance, while your technology is impressive, you have no experience in interstellar warfare. The Void Swarm is unlike anything you've—" "Perhaps," Vance interrupted smoothly, "but we're your only option right now. Unless you'd prefer to let Proxima Centauri fall and give the swarm a foothold in this sector." Grok growled but said nothing. Grand Vizier Kithok stepped forward. "Very well, Dr. Vance. What do you propose?" Vance waved her hand, and the holographic display changed to show Earth's orbital shipyards. The Gaia's Dream and several other massive vessels were already moving into position. "We're mobilizing the Starborn Armada as we speak. With your permission, we'll make our stand at Alpha Centauri. It's the next logical target for the swarm, and the binary star system gives us some tactical advantages." Kthok's antennae twitched in surprise. "You can reach Alpha Centauri in time, but it's over 4 light-years away." Vance allowed herself a small smile. "Distance is less of an obstacle for us than you might think, Grand Vizier. Now, we'll need all the tactical information you have on the Void Swarm. Every bit of data could be crucial." As the Imperial delegate scrambled to provide the requested information, Vance turned to her own team. "Prepare for full neural integration. We'll be coordinating the entire fleet through the collective consciousness. Admiral Chen nodded, his cybernetic implants already glowing as he linked with the Gaia's dream. The Armada stands ready, Dr. Vance. On your command. Vance turned back to the Imperial delegates. Gentlemen, lady, I suggest you prepare yourselves. You're about to witness something unprecedented. With a thought, Vance opened a channel to the Starbound Armada. All ships, initiate quantum slip to Alpha Centauri on my mark. 3, 2, 1. Mark. To the astonishment of the Imperial delegates, the massive Earth ships simply vanished from the holographic display. An instant later, they reappeared in the Alpha Centauri system, smoothly taking up defensive positions. Impossible, breathed Ambassador Zixtal. The energy requirements for such a jump, the precision needed. Questions later, Ambassador, Vance said tersely. The void swarm approaches. The next hours were a blur of frenetic activity. The Imperial delegates watched in awe as Earth's fleet engaged the void swarm in a battle unlike anything they had ever seen. The Gaia's dream led the charge, its quantum disruptors tearing holes in the fabric of space-time itself, swallowing entire squadrons of swarm ships. Smaller Earth vessels danced between the stars of Alpha Centauri, using the intense gravity wells to slingshot themselves at impossible speeds, striking at the swarm with devastating hit-and-run attacks. But the void swarm was relentless. For every ship they lost, 2 more seemed to take its place. Their organic technology adapted quickly, developing countermeasures to Earth's exotic weapons. They're targeting the Gaia's dream, Admiral Chen reported, his voice strained. Swarm ships are merging somehow, forming larger constructs. Energy readings are off the charts. Vance's brow furrowed in concentration as she directed the battle through the neural link. Divert power to the temporal shields. Ensign Patel, prepare to execute Maneuver Omega. The Gaia's dream shimmered, seeming to phase in and out of reality as it evaded the swarm's attacks. Suddenly, a massive beam of coruscating energy burst from the largest swarm construct, striking the Earth flagship dead center. For a moment, it seemed as if the Gaia's dream had been vaporized. But then, impossibly, it reappeared behind the swarm fleet, its hull pulsing with gathered energy. Now, Vance commanded. The Gaia's dream released a pulse of chronometric particles, catching a large portion of the swarm in a temporal stasis field. As the frozen ships drifted helplessly, the rest of the Earth fleet pounced, methodically destroying the immobilized enemy. But the victory came at a cost. As the stasis field dissipated, the Gaia's dream lurched, great arcs of energy coursing across its hull. Direct hit to the dimensional tap, Chen reported grimly. We're losing containment. Dr. Vance, we need to retreat and regroup. Vance nodded, her face drawn with fatigue. All ships, execute emergency quantum slip back to Earth orbit. Move. In a blink, the Earth fleet vanished, leaving behind a badly bloodied but still dangerous void swarm. As the ships rematerialized in Earth orbit, Vance turned to the stunned Imperial delegates. We've bought some time, but the threat isn't over. The swarm will regroup and attack again, likely stronger than before. Grand Vizier Kithok stepped forward, his posture one of newfound respect. Dr. Vance, we had no idea. Your fleet's capabilities are beyond anything we imagined. Vance nodded wearily. And yet, it wasn't enough. Not on its own. She locked eyes with the Vizier. If we're going to survive this, Earth and the Empire need to work together. Truly together, not as master and subject, but as equals. Kithok was silent for a long moment, his compound eyes unreadable. Finally, he extended a clawed hand. Agreed, Dr. Vance. Let us face this threat as allies. As Vance shook the Vizier's hand, sealing the impromptu alliance, she couldn't help but feel that this was just the beginning. The Void Swarm was a formidable enemy, but something told her it was merely the herald of greater challenges to come. The true test of humanity's place in the galaxy was only just beginning. A new era begins. The days following the Battle of Alpha Centauri were a whirlwind of activity. Earth's shipyards worked around the clock to repair the damaged starboard armada, while Imperial reinforcements poured into the sector, establishing a defensive perimeter against any further Void Swarm incursions. In the Grand Conference Room atop New Jakarta's tallest arcology, Dr. Ilara Vance stood before a mixed audience of Earth's leaders and Imperial dignitaries. The atmosphere was tense but filled with a newfound sense of mutual respect. "The Void Swarm has been pushed back," Vance began, her voice carrying easily through the room, "but not defeated. Our victory at Alpha Centauri was hard-won, and it has shown us two important truths." She paused, her gaze sweeping the room. First, that Earth's technology, while formidable, is not infallible. The damage to the Gaia's dream is testament to that. And second, that neither Earth nor the Empire can face this threat alone. Our survival depends on cooperation. Grand Vizier Kithok stepped forward, his iridescent wings shimmering in the light. "Dr. Vance speaks wisely. The Empire has stood for millennia, but we have grown complacent. Earth's emergence has shaken us from our slumber, and not a moment too soon." He turned to address the Imperial contingent. "I propose a full alliance with Earth, not as a subject world, but as an autonomous partner within the Imperial framework." The room erupted into a mix of excited murmurs and concerned whispers. Ambassador Zixtal, standing off to the side, allowed himself a small smile. He had seen this coming from the moment he first set foot on Earth. Warlord Grok, his cybernetic eye whirring as it scanned the room, growled, "And what of their military? No member world has ever been allowed to maintain an independent fleet." "Perhaps," Trade Minister Lyra interjected, her tentacles waving excitedly. "That is a tradition that has outlived its usefulness. The Starborn Armada's performance against the Void Swarm proves its worth." Vance raised a hand, quieting the room. "If I may, we have a proposal that might address these concerns." With a gesture, she brought up a holographic display showing a new ship design. It was clearly of Earth origin, but incorporated elements of Imperial technology. "We call it the Harmony-class battlecruiser," Vance explained. "A true fusion of Earth and Imperial engineering. We propose joint crews, with both humans and Imperial citizens serving together, sharing knowledge and building trust." The display shifted, showing the ship's internal systems. "Moreover, we're willing to share the fundamentals of our quantum slip technology, our dimensional tap power systems, and our neural interface controls. Not all at once, of course, but gradually, allowing the Empire time to adapt and integrate these advancements." The Imperial delegates leaned forward, their eyes wide with interest. The technological offerings on display were beyond their wildest dreams. "In return," Vance continued, "we ask for three things. First, equal representation in the Imperial Senate. Second, the right to continue our own path of technological and social development within the broader Imperial framework. And third, a joint research initiative to explore the mysteries of the galaxy together." She smiled, a hint of mischief in her eyes. "After all, there's still so much we don't know. The origins of the Void Swarm, the fate of the precursors who left us their technology, the true nature of the universe itself. Wouldn't it be wonderful to uncover these secrets together?" The room was silent for a long moment as the implications sank in. Then, slowly, heads began to nod in agreement. The potential benefits of such an alliance were too great to ignore. Grand Vizier Kithok stepped forward once more. "I believe we can work with this proposal, Dr. Vance. There will be details to iron out, of course, but in principle, yes. Let this be the dawn of a new era of cooperation between Earth and the Empire." As the room erupted into applause, Vance felt a wave of relief wash over her, but she knew this was just the beginning. There would be challenges ahead, resistance from conservative factions, and the ever-present threat of the Void Swarm. But for the first time, she felt truly optimistic about the future. In the months that followed, The alliance between Earth and the Empire began to take shape. The first Harmony-class ships rolled out of the joint shipyards, their crews a mix of humans and various Imperial species. The sight of a Mercian Felinoid working side by side with a human engineer, or if Cylon psychic linked into Earth's neural networks, became increasingly common. Earth's technology began to spread throughout the Empire, carefully and gradually. Quantum communication relays shortened the vast distances between star systems. Clean, nearly limitless energy from dimensional tap generators ended resource conflicts on dozens of worlds. Earth's medical advancements extended lifespans and cured diseases long thought incurable. But it wasn't just the Empire that was changing. Earth, too, was transforming. The influx of alien cultures brought new ideas, new philosophies, and new challenges. Humanity's collective consciousness expanded, incorporating the diverse perspectives of their new galactic neighbors. 1 year after the Battle of Alpha Centauri, Dr. Ilara Vance stood on the observation deck of Harmony 1, the flagship of the new joint fleet. Beside her stood Ambassador Zixtal, now serving as the Imperial liaison to Earth. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" Vance said, gazing out at the starfield. A nearby nebula cast a soft, multicolored glow across the deck. Zixtal nodded, his antennae twitching contentedly. "Indeed it is, Dr. Vance. I must admit, when I first arrived on Earth, I never imagined we'd end up here." Vance chuckled. "Neither did I, old friend. Neither did I." Their quiet contemplation was interrupted by a young ensign, a human silent hybrid with iridescent skin and softly glowing eyes. "Dr. Vance, Ambassador," she said, saluting. "We're picking up some unusual readings from the Sagittarius arm. The captain thinks, well, it might be signs of precursor activity." Vance and Zixtal exchanged excited glances. "Well then," Vance said, a spark of adventure in her eyes, "I think it's time we go introduce ourselves, don't you?" As Harmony 1 prepared for quantum slip, Vance felt a familiar thrill run through her. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders, and humanity was no longer facing it alone. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together as part of a greater galactic community. The age of isolation was over. The age of harmony had begun, and the stars themselves seemed to shine a little brighter at the prospect of what was to come.